forget all your cares.
The United States is not the land of the free and the home of the brave. It is the land of the fee and the home of the slave.
Good afternoon, good evening, peace, family. This is me, no, it's not me, it's you, saying blessings, giving blessings to each and every single body.
Jack Ma, founder of Alibaba, said, "The worst people to serve are the poor people. Give them free, they think it's a trap. Tell them it's a small investment, they'll say can't earn much. Tell them to come in big, they'll say no money. Tell them try new things, they'll say no experience. Tell them it's traditional business, they'll say hard to do. Tell them it's a new business model, they'll say it's MLM. Tell them to run a shop, they'll say no freedom. Tell them to run a new business, they'll say no expertise. They do have some things in common. They love to ask Google, listen to friends who are as hopeless as them. They think more than a university professor and do less than a blind man. Just ask them, what can they do? They won't be able to answer you. My conclusion, instead of your heart beats faster, why not just act a bit faster? Instead of just thinking about it, why not do something about it? Poor people fail because of one common behavior. Their whole life is about waiting.
Now, a lot of the time, these people, they make us feel that our lot, our situation is our own responsibility. But if you're born in the slums of New Delhi, that's not your fault. That's not your responsibility. That's the result of other people's greed and manipulation. That's the result of structural processes.
Let's start with this graph. A perfectly even distribution of wealth among all living people, with everyone divided into 5 equal groups. Now, let's show how much each group actually has. Shocking, right? 80% of the world's people barely have any wealth. It's hard to even see them on the chart. Meanwhile, the richest 2%, they have more wealth than half of the rest of the world. Let's look at this chart another way. Let's take the whole world's population, all 7 billion of us, and reduce it to just a representative 100 individuals. Here they are. Poorest people on the left, richest people on the right. Now let's show how the world's total wealth, roughly $223 trillion, is distributed. The vast majority have practically nothing. Nothing with which to educate their children, nothing with which to pay for basic medicines. While the richest 1%, they've accumulated 43% of our world's wealth. The bottom 80%, meanwhile, that's 8 out of every 10 people, have just 6% between them. But even this doesn't really show how extreme things have become. The richest 300 people on Earth have the same wealth as the poorest 3 billion. So the number of people it takes to fill a mid-sized commercial aircraft have more wealth than the populations of India, China, the US, and Brazil combined. We can also see this difference geographically, with a huge and growing gap between a few rich places versus the majority of the world. For most of history, things were much more equal. 200 years ago, rich countries were only 3 times richer than poor countries. By the end of colonialism in the 1960s, they were 35 times richer. Today, they're about 80 times richer.
Now, I'm all for get rich quick and think rich and grow rich. I'm all for the rich dad, poor dad scenarios. I'm all for go-getting and goal-setting and get out there and reach for the sky and everything is yours. I'm all for the secret. I've been into the secret since I was a teenager. You can be a go-getter, or you can be a goal-setter. Well, why not be a go-giver? Why not be a soul deliverer? Why not be, let's see what we can make for each other. There are those things that rich people do that poor people don't do. There are those things that poor people do that rich people don't do. I always hear, well, if you want to get rich, think rich and grow rich. But I never hear, well, the rich are responsible for murder, for exploitation, for embezzlement, for corruption, for structural maladjusted programs, for what they call nowadays is bomb-ass austerity. They call it austerity because they want to put the blame on you. They want to say, look, we have these structural problems in society, and the reason for these problems is because we're spending too much money on the poor. And yet, since 2007, the rich have got richer infinitesimally. They've got richer by a factor of 3 or 4.
Now, the new ECB headquarters is seen as a symbol of the austerity measures, which have put many Europeans on edge. Let's now take a closer look at why the office building has drawn so much anger. The new headquarters occupies a hefty 120,000 square meters. It features 2 skyscrapers, each almost 200 meters tall. It has taken 5 years and over €1 billion to build as well. Kostas Panayotakis, an author and professor of sociology at the New York City College of Technology, joins me live to further discuss this issue. Thank you very much for being with us. Now, do you think the people who gathered in Frankfurt have a lot to be frustrated about?
Yes. This is the kind of irony that we see. There is austerity for the people, and there is certainly not austerity for the ruling economic, technocratic, political elites of Europe, as manifested by this building that cost over $1 billion. Meanwhile, any amount of money that governments like the new Greek government is trying to devote to the needs of people who have been devastated by the austerity policies is being second-guessed, and the European elites are trying to put an enormous pressure so that no headway is being done in the direction of alleviating the effects of these policies. So people, all over the continent are affected by these austerity policies. I mean, Greece may be just an extreme case.
The top CEOs of these top companies, they're getting richer and richer by the second. They earn £45,000 per hour, whereas £25,000 or thereabouts is the average annual earning. And the earnings are being squeezed. Your earnings are being squeezed. You're being bled to death. They're being squeezed by taxation. They're being squeezed by lack of remuneration. They're being squeezed options. They're being squeezed by inflation. They're being squeezed by the high cost of living. The cost of living is going crazy. If you go to Tesco and you can compare this year's prices with last year's prices, you'll see that there's a market 15% increase on general stuff. Oh yeah, sure, they keep milk down because they want to squeeze farmers and let farmers be the beating dog for the international corporations. Yeah, they keep the price of certain commodities down because that's what they do. It's a trick to fool you. They keep milk and bread down as well, but that's another story for another day. But by and large, the prices are going up. Up and up and up. And then they have the sale prices. And then they sell you a product like a Mars bar or a Kit Kat for 25% off the price, but they're selling you something which costs the same as it did 3 years ago, but you're getting, in effect, 30% less than what you were buying 3 years ago.
Good afternoon, everyone. Do you ever get the feeling that the foods you're buying are just more expensive and there's even less in the package? It's called shrinkflation. Currently, just in the UK, there were 2,500 products that shrunk in the last 5 years. The reduced size of the package is actually startling. It applies to paper towels, orange juice, any kind of factory processed foods, and it's just a way for them to mask rising food prices. Oats up in the last 3 months, rice up in the last 3 months, a host of others which we'll look at, as well as ethanol futures and heating oil. This only means one thing: you're going to pay more for energy and food, starting right now.
And they say the reason for the rises in prices because of the rise in the cost of production. But the cost of production have fallen infinitesimally. That's why they had the revolution of automation. That's why they had the revolution of technologicalization and computerization. These things were supposed to come in and keep the cost of living down. But what they've done is basically come in, replace the average manual worker, replace the average semi-skilled worker with a machine, with a tool, and left the vast majority of people in poverty or in unemployment. And I'm not here just to gripe and moan and groan. Nah, louder. I'm saying get up and do whatever it is that you want to do, but first, understand the premise of this particular discourse, and that is, hey, don't blame the poor for being poor.
There's going to be a bailout.
Well, they had to, right? I mean, paper markets would have
They
collapsed.
knew.
Cash would have stopped coming out of ATMs. They had to backstop this.
They knew the taxpayers would bail them out. They weren't being stupid. They just didn't care.
Yeah, because they're fucking crooks. But at least we're going to see some of them go to jail. Right? I mean, they're going to have to break up the banks. I mean, the party's over.
I don't know. I have a feeling that in a few years, people are going to be doing what they always do when the economy tanks. They will be blaming immigrants and poor people.
Banks took the money the American people gave them and they used it to pay themselves huge bonuses and lobby the Congress to kill big reform. And then they blamed immigrants and poor people. And this time, even teachers. And when all was said and done, only one single banker went to jail.
Let's blame the rich. I'm not a Marxist. Yes, I'm a revolutionary. But a revolutionary means what goes around comes around. So what goes around comes around for these demons and these devils and these Democrats in high places with their hidden faces. I know this cast probably won't reach out to too many because they banned my last one. It had over 2 million views in the space of 8 or 9 months, which is not a whole lot in comparison to some. Right now, austerity in the United Kingdom, austerity in the European Union, it's a blood clot farce. It's a bomber-ass joke. They don't give a fluff about you. They don't give a rubbish about you. They don't give a two hoots about you or me. All they care about is keeping themselves in their positions of power. So you know who I'm talking about. I'm talking about those in positions of power. Those who we vote for. Those who we elect. Those who we elect do not have your interest at heart whatsoever. They try and pervade these policies and slogans of freedom for the people and choice and equality and whatever. They're just there stealing from you. Politicians lie and the poor people die. Since the year 2007, since the big crash, since the bubble burst, the rich have got richer by a factor of 2 or 3. The chief CEOs of every major corporation are earning stupid amounts of money, going sky high. The cost of oil has come way down. The cost of petrol has gone way up. The cost of gas and oil, the cost of heating has gone way up. The cost of production has come way down, and yet the prices of commodities and products has gone way up. So, who's the fool? We're the fool. All the rich need in order to stay rich is for the poor people to do nothing.
I'm stuck in this place with no place else to go. I fell on my face like a monkey off a buffalo. They teaching at the lie, but it's the liars that run the show. There's overpopulation, people sleeping on the street. And so many people, we don't know where to put our feet. They fix it so we lose and laugh when we don't succeed. Making honey, easy money, raining gold and silver on the Capitol floor. Some got plenty, most not any. Hallelujah, everybody blame the poor.
There are these people, these gurus that say, look, there are these things that the rich people do that the poor people don't do, and things that poor people do that the rich people don't do. For example, rich people don't watch television. Rich people strive to be on television. So get your ass on television and tell them what it is that you need them to hear. Don't watch television. Don't watch your soap. The point is, if you know what's happening with the latest celebrity gossip, if you know who's marrying who, what, where, and when, if you know who's having a baby for who, and the hot gossip from these stupid celebrities, then the probability is, if you're not involved in the production, that you're a pauper, that you're poor in mind, that you're poor in heart, that you're poor in health. And that's just the way they've got us. They've got us sitting down in front of these screens. They've got us sitting down in front of these black mirrors.
Television is a drug. Television is a drug. They felt that it was important to use the medium to critique the medium. Television is a drug. Television is a drug. They felt that it was important to use the medium to critique the medium.
Everything that we need to survive, everything that we need to thrive is in front of us. I think that if you're strong, if you're rich, then you have an obligation, then you have a responsibility for those who are weak and for those who are poor. That's what I think. I'm just a man, and I'm pretty strong, man. If I see somebody in distress, if I see somebody in need, if I see somebody in want, then I'll go and help them. That's just my nature. But they try and change our nature so that we don't help anybody, so that we're blind, so that we're deaf, so that we're dumb to everything. Look, man, look, woman, this is no joke. Here's something else. They try and hit us upside our head with some madness, like TGLB. I heard the other day that John Lewis, a major retail distributor and retail outlet in the United Kingdom, and other outlets are no longer providing girls and boys clothing because they don't want to enhance stereotypes. Since when the hell has being a boy or being a girl been a blood clot stereotype? You have boys in the Bible, you have girls in the Bible, you have man in the Bible, you have woman in the Bible, you have girls and boys and men and women throughout the ages. But now they're saying to be called a boy is to be called a stereotype. This is madness. This is their theology. This is their thesis being fed to you. This is a one world culture, a one world religion being spoon fed to you, drip, 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 drop fed to you. It's being fed to you through a drip, through a mechanism whereby this information, this disinformation, this misinformation, this madness is being spoon fed to you. And you soak it up. It's in the little cartoons now. No boys, no girls, it's just a he, she, whatever. Think about it. These people are programming us to be fooled, to be cajoled, to be waylaid, to be prey, to be victims for their merciless, blood-sucking tendencies. That's all it is. When they say that, yeah, you have to think rich and grow rich and your destiny is your own responsibility, yes, to a larger or lesser extent, that could be true. But if you're born into abject poverty, that's not your fault. That's not the fault of your parents, because we're humans and we do what we do, and that is reproduce. The fault is those who are in responsibility lack the dignity to do what is right. They're just there looking after themselves. And that's a real problem as far as I'm concerned, because it seems that the world is going into a pit of madness, into mayhem and catastrophe. And we, the poor, we who are preyed upon by the rich, just sit back and do next to nothing about it. All the rich need in order to remain rich is for the poor to do nothing.
United States is not the land of the free and the home of the brave. It is the land of the fee and the home of the slave. And more Americans are waking up to that fact, and hallelujah to that, because only if they do so and then act upon their new perception will they truly have any chance of living in a land that is anyway associated with freedom, and a land that makes a contribution to peace in the world, not a contribution to more and more slaughter, more and more conflict, and therefore more and more acquisition of people and land. We are now
in these times of what they call austerity. We, the masses of the people, simply allow the politicians to continue with their madness and their manipulation and their double talk and their double speak and their lies and their provocation and their propaganda. We allow them to continue with it. They'll tell us, I'll give you a prime example. the new hunchback Prime Minister, Theresa Hunchback May. She says, we will house all of the Grenfell victims within 3 weeks in relation to the Grenfell Tower fire disaster. We will house all of them within 3 weeks. 3 months later, and the people have still not been housed. 3 months later, and people are not being housed within their local neighbourhoods. They're being shipped off 100, 200 miles away.
We are committed to ensuring that people are rehoused as far as possible within the borough or in neighbouring boroughs. Some people may actually want to go to another part of London where perhaps they have a greater support network, where they have friends and relatives. We are ensuring that within 3 weeks people will be rehoused so they have a home to go to.
I ask
so
you again,
immediate
do you
support.
accept, though, that you misread the public mood, the level of anger? You didn't go and meet residents and they really resented that.
This was a terrible tragedy that took place. We are ensuring that within 3 weeks people will be rehoused so they have a home to go to.
They're having their benefits stopped. People on benefits in the country, people that have worked for years, disabled people, handicapped people, people that need actual real physical, monetary, financial help are having their funds slashed. People on child benefit who are below the poverty threshold are having their credits slashed and cut.
Years on, people have gone out of jobs. With the government regime has made people out of a job, and not only have they lost their jobs, they've also lost their homes.
There's a lot of things the government say that there is no poverty in England. I would say there's quite a lot of poverty in England. I would say there's as much poverty here as there is anywhere else in the world.
If you are born poor in Britain, you will stay poor. Basically, government policy has engendered the idea that if you have money, you will increase your money. If you have very little money, you will stay like that. You will stay poor.
These families live in Newtown, a suburb of Birmingham. Here, some 12,500 people live in huge grey buildings and little social houses. 50% of the Newtown citizens are unemployed. Nearly everybody who lives here is poor. From 1979, the total number of British living under the European level of poverty has risen from 5 million to 14 million. 1 in 4 of the poor in Europe is British.
Now, my point is austerity. That's what I'm aiming to try and drive home at you. The austerity program is just another program for the multinational corporations and the governments and the bureaucrats and the autocrats and the automatrons and the robots and the devils and the demons and the scheming bitches and witches to stay rich. It's just a means for them to stay rich while they put this squeeze on everybody else. And yet, this so-called program of austerity is simply a program to brainwash the people to feeling some form of guilt for the lies and manipulations of those in the positions of power. It's actually the government that's stealing the money or siphoning off the money and feeding particular private companies with money and assets and liquidity so that the poor remain poor. They give themselves pay rises, they give themselves bonuses, they give themselves so many benefits that it will make you and I shudder in disbelief. Look. All the rich, all the bloodsuckers of the
Got
poor
everything
need
in this toolbox
for themselves to
but
stay
money
in power is for you,
and dead man.
I, to do nothing.
I'm gonna start a revolution once I catch my 17th wind. But if I go into hiding, baby, will you take me in? Milking honey, dirty money, spitting gold and silver on the Capitol floor. Some got plenty, boast not any, singing hallelujah, everybody blame the poor.